At the executive committee last week, 2 weeks ago, sorry, at a previous executive committee, we considered the recommendations that are in the package. There were a number of amendments that were made, and since then we have met to discuss in person the different possibilities of a meeting schedule. So I have a motion to put forward that reflects what I think is consensus that was at that meeting in terms of how we will go forward on the 2022 meeting calendar for City Council committees. Now, it is very long. It is 3 pages long. I'm not sure if I should read it all, or if, with the indulgence of council, that we would just review it on the board.
Councillor, you're welcome to, with council agreement, just to give the high points in terms of running through. It is before us in writing.
Right. Okay. So the high points are that the Community Wellness Committee and Operations Community Services Committee would be de-established, and that their duties and responsibilities would be incorporated into a revised mandate of Executive Committee. The Regina Planning Commission would be continued with no changes at all to its existing responsibilities and mandate. City Council will meet twice monthly on Wednesdays beginning at 9 a.m., except as outlined in an appendix. Executive Committee will also meet on alternate Wednesdays beginning at 9 a.m. And the change for Regina Planning Commission would be that they would meet once monthly on Tuesdays beginning at 4 p.m. There is a schedule of recesses that's been built in to the meetings. And the other change that I think that is significant to point out is that the delegations, and this is something that we discussed at length, that the delegations will no longer be heard at meetings of City Council, subject to a number of exceptions. Delegations may submit a written brief that would be included in the agenda, but the emphasis would be that delegations would come to Executive Committee, where that discussion would, questions could be made of delegations, and that discussion would happen, so that we're not hearing from delegations twice. However, if they do want to submit a brief for Council's consideration after Executive Committee, they can. There is quite a few other considerations. I think an important thing that needs to be mentioned as well is that the submission and distribution deadlines for meetings of City Council and Executive Committee will be changing. So there will be a lot more notice of the agendas and the items on the agendas that are going to Council or Executive Committee. Distribution and release of the agendas will be the Friday afternoon, 13 days prior to the meeting, and the deadline will be the preceding Thursday. Well, the deadline would be on the no later than 1 p.m. The deadline for materials would be no later than 1 p.m. on the Thursday, 14 days prior to the meeting. The deadline for registering to address Executive Committee is 1 p.m. the Thursday immediately preceding the Executive Committee meeting, and the deadline for written submissions is as well that same time. The submission and distribution deadlines for Regina Planning Commission have similarly been changed, where it would be in writing no later than 1 p.m. the Thursday, 13 days prior to the meeting. And the deadline for registering to address Regina Planning Commission is 1 p.m. the Thursday immediately preceding the Commission meeting. There's a couple of administrative revisions to the procedural bylaw as well. The requirement for council members, administration, delegations to stand when speaking will be discontinued. And in the section of the order of business at meetings, that order is changing somewhat, so that is again in writing. I don't want to read through it all. The requirement for the mayor or deputy mayor to leave the chair for the purpose of taking part in the debate at city council meetings will be discontinued. All of the references in the procedural bylaw to he, his, and she, her will be changed to they and their. And so the city solicitor would be making amendments to the procedural bylaw according to this motion. And finally, there was an amendment made at the executive committee to direct the city clerk to investigate the implications, costs, and timing of implementing full-time councillor positions and to consult with comparative municipalities by Q3 of 2022. I move the motion, and I think there's a seconder.
Thank you, Councillor Hawkins. A seconder?